Okay, good morning. You're on to grade 12 mathematics class, and we've been treating SURDS. Today we'll be looking at multiplication of SURDS. We've actually started the topic and pick a few questions from there and build up and continue from there. Our textbook of reference is the Essential Mathematics for SS3. SURD is something you would have done in your further maths grade 10. So this class serves as a revision for these concepts. Okay, so we go to exercise 1.4 is of interest to us, and maybe I'll take from question 4. I've solved some questions here previously. So let's start from question 4. It says 54 times 18 all raised to the power of half. Now we know that half, according to SURDS, half means what? Square root. So this would be the square root of what? 54 times 18. So what you need to do, you need to rearrange this. This will give me 9 times 3 times 2 times what? 18. And that will be what? 9 times 3 times what? 36. The square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 36 is 6. Root what? 3. And that will give you 18 root 3. So that was the answer for that. That will be the answer for question 4. Now we go to, let's pick another one. Let's say we pick question 7. It says 5 times 2 root 3. How do you handle this? They hold on, the numbers will multiply themselves and you'll be left with what? Root 3. Let's pick other ones. Let's look at question 12, for instance. Root 20 times 2 roots 5 times 5 root 40. Now the trick here is to simplify each one. So what I tell students is this: pick root 20, break it. Root 20 will be what? The square root of 4 times 5, which is what? 2 root 5. Pick root 40. Root 40 will be what? The square root of what? A perfect square and an ordinary number. I can pick 4 from them times what? 10. That will be 2 root 10. Next thing, I'll put them back. This will now give me 2 root 5 times what? 2 root 5 times what? 5 into what? 2 root 10. I see that. This one I can easily multiply out. This will give me 2 times 2, 4. Root 5 times root 5 will give me what? 5. So that will give me 4 times 5, which will be 20 times 10 root what? 10. I see that. So 20 times 10 will now give me what? 200 root 10. It usually requires you to take it gradually. That's the trick here. Take it gradually. Okay. So let's look at question 13. And after that, I'll give us a little activity to try hands on. In question 13. What do you have in question 13? 3 root 6 all squared. When they say all squared, it's quite simple. It means 3 root 6 times 3 root 6. That's what it means. And that will give you what? 9 times 6. And that will be what? 54. So that takes care of that. Right. So by way of class activity, we'll now try to solve maybe close to 5 questions and see how we fare on the idea. So we start off with question 14. Now in question 14, we are told that root 5, root 3, all raised to the power of 5. Now, anytime, the trick here is anytime you have odd power, you must have a sword at the end of it. So I will write this like this. So write in terms of even power and then do this. So this will be what? We know that this will now be what? Please watch. Is that not? Because 2 times 2. See, apply my knowledge of indices now. What's the square root of? What's this 1 squared is 3? 3 squared is 9. That's the answer. Because at SS3, there's a way we expect you to be processing questions. Now let's look at question 15. 3 root 4 all raised to the power of 2. Now, here, there are different ways you can solve this, but I need you to pay attention to root 4 is 2. I think that. So, not just the answer, but there are techniques they want you to see. Different approach they want you to see as you solve these questions. Now, look at this. I think that. So, this, what will this give you? This will mean what? 5 squared times root 3 all squared. I see that. So what would that be? 25 times 3. And that will give you what? 75. 17. 2 root 5 all raised to the power of 3. Remember that I said that this will not be 2 root 5 all raised to the power of 2 times what? 2 root 5. I see that. So that will now give you, this one will be treated as what? 2 raised to the power of 2 times the square root of, times root 5 squared times what? 2 root 5. This will be 4 times 5 times 2 root 5, which will now be equal to what? 40 root 5. Now, in an exam setting, I could process all of this in my brain, but because for purpose of learning, I'm trying to show you, take you through my mind and see how I am processing the thoughts in my head to arrive at that answer. All right, so that settles for question 17. Now, what of 18? In question 18, we have 3 root 2 all raised to the power of 4. We can break this to be 3 raised to the power of 4. I see that. And what? Times root 2 all raised to the power of 4. This will now mean 3 raised to the power of 4 times 2 raised to the power of 2. I hope you know why. Because root 2 squared is what? 2. Or maybe I should take one more step so that you see what has happened here. Eh? I see that. Question 19. In question 19, we have that a raised to the power of, a root x all raised to the power of 7. Now this one will be a raised to the power of 7 into root what? X all raised to the power of what? 7. So this part is taken care of. Where I have a challenge is this one now. Are you seeing that? So what would this give me? You break it into factors, divide this by 2. See that? A raised to the power of what? 7. X raised to the power of 3. Root what? X. So you see that that's what that question 19 will look like. Okay, let's look at question 20. Very interesting area of maths. Question 20. Question 20, we have 2√3 all raised to the power of 5. So that will be 2 raised to the power of 5 times. You see what I'm doing? I'm not so bothered about the answer. I'm more interested in the process, how I process to get the final answer. So from here, I'm going to have 32 times what? √3 all raised to the power of 4 times what? √3. It is 5, so I'm making odd and even. So this will now give me 32 times what? 3 raised to the power, this will now be 3 raised to the power of 2. That's what it means. You just divide this by 2 and this becomes a whole number. 32 times 9 root what? 3. That should give you 200 and what? Or 300 and what? 288 root 3. So I think with this one, you should be able to handle any question as it regards to this topic. All right, so that clears off for multiplication, and then we'll go into division. So we're going to division of surds, and to help us with that, we'll be using exercise 1.5. So exercise 1.5 of our essential mathematics will be helping us out here. Now, there are different, I usually prefer to go through exercises when explaining concept, because you need to understand the unique problems you have to be able to profile the correct solution. Now, if you look at question 1a, the square root of 4 over the square root of what? 9. I always advise students at your level, you should know perfect squares from 1 to 50. You should know it, and you should have them at your beck and call. So square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 9 is what? 3. So that's for question 1. And if you look at question B, they change the approach. Now you can solve this straight to become 10 over 8, 10 over 4, which will be 5 over 2, or you can alternatively do this. And that is the first thing you need to take note of. Whether you solve like this or like this, you will still get the same answer. Are you seeing it? So any approach you use to solve that, you will get the same answer. Now look at another one. Now let's look at C. Now in question D, the concept art has changed a little. Square root of 3 over 27. Remember, you've been taught the concept of reducing fraction to the lowest term. And this will give you what? 1 over 9. So that will be square root of 1 over 9. And that will be 1 over 3. So you see different approach and different, you see, you solve the questions as a function of what the question really requires of you. Let's look at E. In E, you're given the square root of what? 98 over 4. So the first thing you need to do is to reduce to the lowest. Ideally, you would have reduced to the lowest term. Is that not what you would have done? But because we are dealing with surds, anytime you are dividing in surds, the objective is to ensure that the denominator is a rational number. So we are going to make an exception. So if you have something like this, and when you reduce to a lesson, you're having 49 over 2, you cannot find the square root of 2. What you now do here is to break them. So you have to break it. Have you seen it? Over what? So this will now give you what? The square root of what? 49 times 2 over, what's square root of 4? 2. What's square root of 49 is 7. That will be 7 root 2 over 2. This is what the answer will be. So you see, they are preparing you for what is to come. Take note of these observations. Every question presents something very new, and you need to pay attention to them. So that's for question 1. That's question 1E. All right, so now in question 2, we'll be looking at the concept of rationalization of a denominator. I hinted that in the first question when I was solving, when I made a statement that the objective of division of surd is to ensure that the denominator is a rational number. That is not root 2 or root 3 or anything. So let's look at question 2, for instance. In question 2, number 1, that one on A, we are told to rationalize 1 over root 3. How do you do that? It's very simple. You just multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same surd. What essentially is the objective? Remember that the denominator is root 3. And we already know that the square root of A times the square root of A is equal to what? A, is that not? So that will balance off my denominator for me, and I'll have what? Root 3 over 3. So that's question 1. That's question 2A. Okay. Let's look at question B. In B, it is what? 2 over root 7. I got that right. 2 over root 11. The same approach. And that will be 2 root 11 over 11. I see it's very straightforward. So I will leave you to try your hands on some other questions. Let me just pick one that's a little. Let's look at D. Root 9 over root 2. Root 9 over root 2. That will be equal to 3 over root 2. So how do you do that? 3 over root 2 times root 2 over root 2. And that will give you 3 root 2 over 2. Now that's for D. So you know, I'm not picking them in any particular order. Now let's look at question. Let's look at question G, because that's where I think it gets a little different. 3x over the square root of 18. Now, applying previous knowledge, this would have been 3x over what? The square root of what? 9 times 2. Is that not? Which will now give you 3x over 3 root 2. This can cancel this. It's at this point you can now say x over root 2 times what? Root 2 over root 2. And that will be x root 2 over 2. I think that the knowledge has changed a little now. All right, then we'll go to H. In H, there seems to be another idea being played with here. 4 root 4 over what? Root 32. This will now be 4 over 32 is what? 16 times 2. That will give you 4 over what? 4 root 2. Are you seeing that? So this will now mean 1 over root 2 times root 2 over root 2. And that will give you root 2 over 2. Now let's look at I. I think I may be the last one I'll solve before I give you tax. 7 over 24. What would that be? The square root of 7 over the square root of what? 24. What is the square root of 24? It's actually this, the square root of 7 over what? The square root of 6 times 4. What is the square root of 4? It is what? 2. So that will be what? The square root of 7 over what? 2 root 6. Here is where your first important lesson comes. When you want to rationalize this one, you will multiply numerator and denominator by root 6 and not 2 root 6. Take note. You're going to multiply numerator and denominator by what? Root 6 and not 2 root 6. Because what is causing that change is the root. So multiply both numerator and denominator by root 6. So this will now give you what? The square root of what? 42 over 2 times 6, which is what? 12. That's what your answer would be.